Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lendingkart Leadership Podcast. In this series, you get to hear our esteemed leaders answer some very serious and some not so serious questions. Tune in for some candid conversations.
Hope you guys had a fantastic new year. This episode is the season finale of the first season of the Lendingkart podcast. And for this, we have with us Sundar Gosakan, the Chief Risk and Credit Officer at Lendingkart. Hi, Sundar. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me, Kenny. And I really look forward to our discussion. At the outset, I would like to wish you and all the listeners a very happy and a healthy new year.
Thank you so much for wishing you and your family the same.
Thank you.
I have some very interesting questions prepared for you, and I would like to start with the first one, which I'm sure everybody is looking forward to hear the answer for. So, risk, right? It's a dangerous word already, and I'm sure risk and credit are a lethal combination. So, what is really the job of the Chief Risk and Credit Officer? Please help us explain a bit about your role.
Kenny, I like your choice of words, right? I mean, talking about it being as dangerous and lethal, I would say it's probably more an enabler than a threat. The primary role of a chief risk officer is really the identification, measurement, and mitigation of risk across the organization, right? And it's also not limited to credit risk, which is probably the popular belief.
Right.
So let me kind of quickly talk through some of the different types of the risks that we have.
Sure.
So starting at the top, we have the strategy risk. So really, if the strategy is poorly defined or not being properly executed, then anything else that we do is for naught. Then there is people risk, and within that, the conduct risk, which is really the actions of employees that cause any detriment to the others. Then technology risk, and given that it's all pervasive and more so for us, where we cover information security risk, cyber risk, and data privacy risk. Financial risk, capital liquidity, and sometimes the overlooked financial reporting risk, everything to do with the preparation of financial statements. And operational risk, where we cover physical security, fraud, regulatory, vendor management, where all credit product and process shall be vetted from the angle of inherent and control risk. And finally, credit risk, where we cover portfolio quality. And I would like to sum this up by saying, an old saying which fits risk management, which is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Lovely. That really sums up very well. So there is so much risk involved, like you said, there are different types of risk. So how do you balance the risk requirement with with growth, right? How do you ensure there's higher conversion while also maintaining portfolio quality? I'm sure it must be like a tightrope walk, every month or quarter to ensure this is stabilized.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I would also say while the CRO is tasked with maintaining the overall health of the portfolio, it is really very important for the risk culture in an organization. And that takes shapes when the business also drives prudent decisions, enabling me to be an effective leader. See, the CRO will need to continue as a business partner, sharing the ownership for sustainable growth as much as the other CXO stakeholders in the system. So it's not really just about trying to say, how do we want to drive the right behavior? I think it's more the risk culture of the organization, which drives the right behavior to a sustainable growth.
That sounds right. So do you have an example that you can share with us, an experience where you had to mitigate risk to the company with high stakes, difficult decisions?
Wow, sounds like every day in my life, right? Okay, so in one of my earlier stints with an MNC bank in Vietnam, I had a difficult job of trying to shut down some loss-making products in our quest of being profitable. So, and it's never easy to do that, right? Anyway, withdrawing products, the market sees this negatively, as do the local staff. So this was a big problem that I had. And obviously something that we needed to do because we felt that saying that, while we had a flagship product, the other products were actually pulling it down. The challenge really was at saying, how do we kind of create a balance where we don't necessarily get out of some of the products, but we do know that it's creating more losses. So we kind of agreed to keep the products on the shelf, but did not actively promote it. And as a result, we not only ended up seeing a growth in the market share of the flagship product, but also being profitable. Wow. So it was not easy business, but I suspect that, we could work this together and, get it there. And closer home, I would say even in LK, where we have been very prudent in our approach. We have actually refrained from taking an easy way out, by just buying deeper, right? And by buying deeper, what I mean is that it is really subprime or suboptimal.
Right.
We have not tried doing that and meeting the disbursal numbers. We continue to focus on quality business.
Right.
Over 85% of what we source monthly is greater than 700 as a bureau score, which is largely seen in as a good score that we could source people.
Yeah.
And that's really paying us rich dividends in terms of reduced cost of credit. And this just is further to the point that I mentioned earlier. That's important that all of us are aligned on sustainable growth. And it's not just the job of risk to ensure quality or otherwise.
Yeah, no, I was also reading recently about this report that mentioned that Lendingkart has the best in class MSME borrower profile. So
Absolutely. We did get the external validation as well by the bureau, and that's really the way to go.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's great to hear. It's great to hear about that. And like you said, that because your role demands you to make difficult decisions, I'm sure it also demands you to be very stern and to be 100% compliant to rule and regulation. What is your management style like?
You seem to be putting me in a bracket of a school teacher. While I agree that there is 100% compliance to rules and regulations, which is necessary. I would suspect my management style is probably adaptable as per the situation. I would like to believe it's largely collaborative and consultative. And if you promise me to edit this line, I'll also be candid and admit that at times it's more prescriptive. And I'm sure my team would probably agree to this being more prescriptive as opposed to being adaptable or being collaborative or even consultative.
Well, I'm not making any promises here, but good to hear. So, like you said, your team will agree to these qualities of that you have. But what are the qualities that you look when you are building your team, or when you build your team here?
So again, Kini, given the fact that at least credit and risk, the need of the hour is subject matter expertise. I really look at more from a leadership standpoint, which includes communication, teamwork, and subject matter expertise. Obviously, problem solving and contribute to the success of the company. These are broadly the areas that I look at. Though I suspect that saying when we focus on the mid-level staff, it's more of fire in the belly. See, at the end of the day, for a company like ours, what we need really is for somebody to come in and say, they need to be a wannabe, an aspirational person in terms of saying, how do we kind of change what we are doing? So this is not the conventional way of just going around in terms of lending. How do we kind of disrupt? How do we kind of start doing things that's never been done before? So I think the focus really is fire in the belly. But like I said, from a credit and risk standpoint, I would rather focus more on subject matter expertise and leadership, which is really the need for the hour.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So we know that you have a huge career behind you, right? And you've had so many years of experience. But what I want to understand is that why did you choose to come to Lendingkart or to join this field altogether?
Kini, this is a very easy question among the others. So I've never had the experience of working in a fintech. All my experience so far has been in the traditional banking space.
Right.
So, while I'm really thankful to LK for offering me an opportunity, and I must admit it's been an interesting ride so far, with a lot of unlearning and relearning. See, I always thought that, when you looked at a fintech, it was all about trying to cut down on processes.
Right.
So in reality, they were actually substituting technology as opposed to throwing people at the process. Whether it's the algo-driven underwriting, Perfios, I can name quite a few where, life is absolutely different in a fintech as opposed to traditional underwriting. So I think in that sense, to me, this has been a new one. And obviously, I'm loving the ride.
Great. And like you said, that there's a massive difference between traditional banking and fintech. So how do you think things have changed with the advent of fintech? And what is your view of the future of company like Lendingkart?
Okay, this is a very loaded question. Fintech has obviously transformed, how we manage our money, make payments, or even borrow funds. So, it's made getting a mortgage or applying for a loan more manageable than ever before, and given us new ways to invest our money. So I would think at saying fintechs are not just empowering customers and businesses with new tools and technologies, but improving the entire customer service in the whole fintech space. So on your second question, let's look at the way forward for fintechs and how are we placed. See, financial inclusion and education will be two of the driving factors for financial services. So digitalization and the increased presence of fintech aim to reach the underserved population and provide financial services. So this will continue to be our focus areas, and expansion of our distribution channels is a step in the right direction.
Okay.
Now, what's also going to happen is co-lending will become more mainstream. And,
Correct.
this is something where we are already one of the first movers, and
Right.
we should continue to hold the pole position. I also suspect the ecosystem business models will evolve. So there will probably be more co-created products and services where we will be generating more value and providing the customers with the fullest customer experience. Also, account aggregator, could significantly impact lending and create the next UPI moment in the fintech space. See, we
Right.
have started early. We are already doing well here with about 25% of the new applications coming in through the account aggregator route. So this will significantly improve as we go along, right? And lastly, the regulatory landscape in India has facilitated fintech adoption by introducing guidelines and regulations, which are more participative and iterative, and is also maintaining a customer-centric approach. So in summary, I would say we are in very good space and poised for a leap, simplifying MSME finance.
That's interesting. Good points. Okay, I've asked you a lot of loaded questions, like you said, but I'm going to ask you the easy ones. And my first would be, and this is very interesting as for me, you are of course taking care of the risk element professionally, but personally, are you a risk taker?
So, Kini, risk and me is an oxymoron, right? I mean, really, for looking at, taking risk in personal life, I think, it would be difficult. But on a serious note, I've taken a couple of risks in my professional career. So moving from a specialized area to an uncharted territory, and no, it's not LK. So I did kind of move from lending to a broking business and a little early in the career, and that didn't work well. But on the other hand, I did a overseas move to a frontier market, which is really Vietnam, and that worked out very well, both personally and professionally. So I think the family life was a lot better. The children were exposed to a different education, and all of that actually worked well. So I always, kind of think back on Vietnam as one of the, stints where both kind of went well, right? And it's invariably, one of them actually do well, whether it's personal or professional. But this was one particular stint where the family life was happy as much as I kind of enjoyed the professional challenges within Vietnam.
Oh, that's interesting. You mentioned Vietnam before in the conversation as well. Are there any experiences that are unique to Vietnam that you would like to share with us?
Yeah. So, Kini, let me share with you what I thought was funny when I read it and understood better when I got to see it at close quarters. Would you believe it if I said it is how to survive road crossing in Vietnam? It's an adventure in itself. 95% of the road traffic in Vietnam is motorbikes. Right? The zebra crossing does not mean you can walk across and the traffic will stop. The traffic never stops, even for traffic lights. Right? And it's no good waiting for a gap. There will not be one. You will be there for a very, very long time. So unless you know what to do, you'll be stuck by the side of the road forever. Right? So in fact, the principle of crossing the road is quite simple, but not at all intuitive, right? You simply walk through the traffic, looking at the oncoming traffic at all times. You just step into the road and walk slowly but confidently across. The motorbikes expect this, and they will all flow around you like water around a stone. So, this is, even when they are people who are blowing their horns, they are not necessarily angry with you. They're just letting you know that they are, and it's all quite normal. Right? To me, while this applies more to the Westerners than us, I was very surprised that this is a part of a debrief to all expats. And incidentally was also done to me, even though, I come in from a more of an Asian country. And incidentally, you can actually Google how to cross the road in Vietnam, and you will get a step-by-step process for it. Right? I just thought that it was not just funny, but to be fair, it is something that you would probably be surprised when you go to Vietnam. Because there's so much of a buzz on the roads. And I could tell you for a long time, even after I moved out of Vietnam, I was missing the buzz of the motorbikes. This kind of starts at about 5 a.m. in the morning and goes on till about 7 in the evening. It's an early close for Vietnam. But you would actually see this, and there will be a bit of withdrawal symptoms because that noise has suddenly stopped, right? And it's a constant buzz. And believe me, Kiri, you should visit Vietnam to get a understanding of this. And you'll probably appreciate what I say more if you happen to visit Vietnam.
Now that you're saying, I will definitely go to Vietnam and check this out. Very interesting. Very interesting. Cool. Thank you for sharing that. And My next question is that if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would that be?
So this is just from the archives, right? I mean, this is so much with me that I can immediately kind of give you a response. So it's really about studying well and good grades. See, I was hoping to go overseas for my higher studies. And while I managed to get an admission, there was no scholarship, no fee support. And I suspect it was all thanks to my scores. And given that the costs were so prohibitive, there was no other option but to contend with studying locally. And really, to me, things like this, where if you've got dreams of really wanting to do something, I think you've really got to work hard to achieve your dreams. And I found that saying, if I had kind of done this well, then, maybe my life would have changed. Not that I'm complaining, but that was one of the things that I was always keen on. And I also now have a college going son, and I'm paying through my nose for his studies, right? So I can very well appreciate, my parents' dilemma on maybe prioritizing my dream versus probably trying to, keep it up for the family.
Yeah, no, that's a good message to start the new year with for everybody. Study well, get good grades, go abroad, study, and work and do big.
Agree.
Yeah, great. And what's this? So you've been working for a very long time, like we understand. So what's the one thing about your job or your particular field of expertise that almost no one agrees with you about?
This is very easy. Everybody, I know at least feels that I have a crystal ball and I know how the portfolio will behave in the future. Really, see, to me, the challenge in my job is to predict in advance, and it's never easy, right? And given that you are asking me the question, I'm now planning to take astrology classes to get better at my job. Because there's really no other way out, right? See, a lot of times, I have been at the wrong end of the stick by saying, let's go with what is being proposed, and have had to repent in later when we really see losses hitting the roof. So to me, if I have to get better at my job, I just think astrology classes is the way to go.
Great. And when you're good at that, you can also predict when I'll go to Vietnam.
Absolutely.
Okay. And this is my last question for you. And this is a very good one. If you woke up as the finance minister of India, what is the one thing that you'd like to change?
I thought, Kinney, you promised me that the questions were going to get easy. Right?
So,
my first response, Kinney, is probably to go back to sleep, right? It's too much responsibility. However, if you are going to push me for an answer, and given that it's the budget season,
right,
I would like a rationalization of the personal income tax slabs to, really boost purchasing power and consumption. See, at the end of the day, I am salaried, and, that's probably really what every salaried person hopes in every budget. So that's pretty much what I am also hoping for.
Yeah, I think we all are hoping for that.
Absolutely.
Great. This is all for today. Sundar, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I know it's not easy for you to take our time, but we're really, really glad that you did. We were so happy to have you.
Thank you, Kinney. I really enjoyed this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit like and share. मिलते हैं अगली बार with some real insights on leadership and the industry.